Okay.
Oh, welcome everybody. This is Girl Talk, and my co-host is dear Lori Dawson. My name is Krista Taylor, and if you're watching this recording, we do this for the women of VoxxLife because we want to work together, and all boats rise with the tide. So that's really the premise behind what we're doing here. And I'm going to introduce my dear friend and the very first woman of Vox, Lori Dawson, to talk to you about our speaker that's going to join us today. Go ahead, Lori.
Thanks, Krista. I'm so excited. Like, for me, the numbers never matter on these calls because I checked out the likes when we posted that Ange was doing the training this week, if we can call it that. I'd prefer to call it conversation. And there's a lot of gals, I think, girls out west and girls down east and the time change and all of that. So I think it's important that we keep doing this. We keep the girls connected. The numbers in our Women of VoxxLife group are growing. So I think it's worth doing. I think it's worth seeing everybody in real time myself. But if that's not possible for the other ladies, then let's just keep rolling with this as long as we can. I'm excited, Ange. Thanks for doing this.
I'm excited to be on today. It's fun.
Isn't it fun? Yeah. So your story just gives me goosebumps because you are just a gal that is going to get her done. And you inspire me not to be a sucky baby. So, and your story from being a teenager who had a heart for kids with special needs to what you didn't do for a living with the horses, and then the courage that you display to survive that stroke thing with your hubby and take charge of all that, and fly around the world with big animals and go to places that don't have English as their first language, and then to embrace Vox the way you did and accept our invite to come up to the Great White North and just roll with everything that presented and be such a gamer. You just impress me, love, and I want other people to know who you are.
Oh, don't make me cry. I have a meeting to go to.
Well, I don't know. I'm a little fatigued. It was a late night, but at the same time, we connect on so many levels, us girls, and it's a safe place here for us to share our hearts.
Yes.
And you have a beautiful heart. So does everybody here. So let's hear from you.
Thank you, Lori. It's everybody that doesn't know kind of my full story, I'll give you the very brief version of it.
Thank you.
So my journey with Vox has been very interesting. I've been with the company since April of 2017. And starting from the beginning, I got into riding horses when I was 9 through Girl Scout. Also a Easter Seals facility. So they did riding lessons and Special Olympics for handicapped kids and adults. So after a couple years of horse camp, I volunteered. I was probably 11 or 12 and started volunteering with the handicap camp. My mom, who's very impatient, said, "I can't believe you're doing this. How do you do this?" And I said, "Because, Mom, when you take a kid that can't walk, and all of a sudden you give them 4 legs and they can go anywhere, the look on their face is exactly why you do it."
Wow.
And I knew that when I was, 11 or 12. Mobility and just the release and the joy and the hope of having 4 good legs when they don't even have 2 good legs.
Absolutely.
So fast forward, I get into horses professionally. I teach, I train, I do race horses. I get into doing horse therapy, PMF, pulse electromagnetic fields. This is also what Lori does.
Yep.
There are several people within the VoxxLife community that do PEMF, which is awesome. And I also am certified to work on people and small animals.
Brilliant.
So again, kind of my healing, helping nature came around, and most of my business was the horses. But sometimes the horses were messed up because the riders were messed up. And sometimes I could fix the people and sometimes I couldn't. And sometimes they didn't have time or money, or they didn't want to help themselves to help their horses. So in the middle of all this, my husband has a massive stroke in neuro ICU for 13 days. Life's flipped upside down, and I find myself as a caretaker. He didn't work for a year. I supported us and 2 households at that time with just my PMF business. So that was 6 years ago this month.
Wow.
So 2.5 years ago, I got introduced to VoxxLife. He had neuropathy imbalance issues. Everything's great now. So that's kind of how I got into Vox, but I was still doing my PEMF business. Through that, I could now help some of my riders that didn't have the time or didn't want to sit still long enough or didn't want to spend the money on themselves, because that's what horse people do. We don't spend money on ourselves, but I could get them in socks.
Yes.
And
Because they're affordable.
They're affordable. They're easy.
Yes.
They're convenient. So they can put socks on in the morning and they can still do what they have to do while I'm there treating their horses. I don't have a big social network. I don't have a lot of friends. I haven't been in the past a very outgoing person.
So it doesn't that speak to the fact that you got yourself on a plane and got up here to go to Windy Lake with us?
So yeah. So I was always taught to be a survivor. My family didn't have a lot of money. Of course, I get into one of the most expensive sports on the planet. And I was always taught to be a survivor, just get it done. And so through all of this, then I always just kind of got by. And my wind kind of changed in my life when I won a contest that Lori and Terry ran to go to Terry's fishing lodge. And that's when my whole shift kind of happened. And, Terry's hard on people.
Tell me about it.
And he's very good at asking very hard questions that you have to ask yourself and really dig deep and find the answers to. And so with all of that, one, I never win anything in my life. So how I was the only American to win this trip was crazy.
And the furthest away that you could be.
The furthest away that I could be. And so I go to the cabin, spend, I don't know, what was it, 4 days, 5 days, whatever it was. I travel in my little backpack. Here I go. I meet Lori and Jen at the airport, a couple of women I've never met before in my life, to travel 6 hours up to some fishing lodge in the middle of nowhere. And that's where it all changed. And I figured out, that's where the aha moment happened, that I do Vox because it gives me that same moment and that same feeling as giving the kids 4 legs.
Brilliant.
You still see that look on people's faces when they get the relief, they get the hope, they get a little glimmer of a normal life back.
Yep.
And that is why I do Vox. That's why I do it. And when you get stories from moms that are crying themselves to sleep every night because their kids are autistic and having meltdowns and won't go to bed, and it's tearing the family dynamic apart. Yeah. You put a pair of socks on and literally within an hour, the kid's totally different.
Yeah.
And
my heart right now is aligned with your heart, Ange, in the sense that I 100% believe that if we can impact the kids for the better, that we impact the family, and that's generational from grandma and grandpa right the way through. And people like who won't spend on themselves will spend for their kids. And so we have to be very diligent, in my mind, to build relationships with these parents, because Jen and I recently had an experience where this parent was such a crusader for her child. We couldn't get a Vox word in edgewise. So we had to just let her tell her story because it was dramatic. And once she had it out, and once she knew that we were listening and that we actually cared, we're going to rebook. We just got together with her. So if the door was open, we'd go through it. But you know what? She had to let us know who she was first. And that's okay. So it's not always an instant sell. It's often a first get to know.
Yeah.
And have them have faith in you. So your heart for the kids, which is still the case because those are the testimonies that stand out for you, and they're starting to for me, is why I'm looking to, in November, do a what I'm going to call a workshop. So have an entire day. And I've already run it past Jay and Inder. And the idea is to gather people within the field to share some expertise beyond Vox, because we know that we can't eat our socks and
Right.
nutrition is important. So just that idea. And so share with us a little bit, Ange, about like how you build out your business in conjunction with, you know, you're living your life really.
Yeah, so I'm still involved in the horses, but I keep sharing. I keep finding different venues to go to. I've recently moved from Florida to Indiana, so I'm in a whole different attitude, a whole different market. I was talking with Krista before all this started. I can't get into our farmers markets here because they won't allow any direct sales. So in trying to just reach people, I've had to get a little creative, but I keep putting myself out there. And things have opened up, and now I'm to the point where I'm very busy, to the point where I'm doing this in my car today. So it's you have to decide what you want, and you have to decide what it means to you to go after it.
Yes.
So for me, the lake started it, and I've had my ups and downs for sure. But you have to make the decision to do it. And then once you make that decision, it's amazing how all the pieces just come together for you.
And I say you've really ridden out some ups and downs. And that whole story of you deciding to leave Florida because of your hurricane PTSD, I mean, that's the stuff of life. And that is what we're faced with while we're trying to build I'll call it a legacy, you know, because if we leave people with the ability to engage with their families more, it's not a transaction, it's a legacy.
Right.
So
yeah, I've just, and there really is something though to writing it down. Write down what you want to happen. And one of my biggest things, so I've done 2 90-day action plans, and my first one, I was still in that I don't know where I'm going with this, and I just don't know, and I don't want to set myself up for failure, so I'm gonna go kind of easy on this and kind of test the waters. And so I filled it out, and I remember posting the picture like everybody was doing, and I get this message from Terry, yeah, that's nice, but can we amp that up a bit?
Spoken like my brother.
I said, no, I don't think so. I feel pretty comfortable with this. I feel comfortable that I can do this. And he said, that's the problem. You're comfortable. Right.
Yeah.
So the next 90-day plan came leading up to Niagara. And my goal was to make director because I wanted that extra day of training. So I took whatever it was going to take to get to that extra day of training, which is now paid off tenfold getting to that extra day. It's been amazing. But you just have to write it down and not make excuses.
Yes.
And just do it. Everybody's busy. Everybody has kids, or they're a caretaker, or they work 50 hours, 60 hours, 70 hours a week. I mean, there's always an excuse. And so when you just decide to change that from an excuse to making it more of a priority, then everything shifts. The energy shifts, the attitude shifts, and now this is what I do full time.
Brilliant. And you know what I find too is a help to me personally is having an accountability partner. And you're right about Terry. He pushes himself equally as hard as he pushes those that he sees the potential in. And my accountability partner would be more than one, but any opportunity that comes my way, I try to make it to say yes to if I have availability. And so one of my accountability partners is me. And what I say to myself is this an excuse or is this a reason? And, I was challenged by the girls, Pat and Krista, to host a call, and not my favorite thing to do. And I would have given myself maybe a C+ on that call, maybe a B-.
But you did it.
But I did it, and I feel like when I do the self-evaluation afterwards, where I could have improved. And the biggest victory for me was get over your damn self, and do it. And no, you don't have to have a glamour makeover. And because what would that do in the end? I loved Andrea Chernin put up a post yesterday, and it was called "Not All the Single Ladies, All the Wrinkled Ladies." It was fantastic. And
So I wonder if I could ask, just thinking about Ange and how much of a go-getter you are and how amazing you are. I'm thinking about the women that are joining Vox, that may even have not joined Vox yet, that are going to watch this recording in 6 months or a year from now even. And, and they're busy. And one of the books I'm reading right now talks about everybody has the same 24 hours. Like nobody has more hours in the day than anyone else. So it really is about prioritizing and taking action. But targeted action rather than just random action, right. More targeted action. I wonder, Ange, if you could just give us a snapshot of what, and I realize that week after week may not be the same, but maybe like 2 or 3 typical weeks for you. Like, what does it look like when you're out sharing Vox? I mean, when you write down the 90-day plan and stuff, people are watching this and they're thinking, but then what? I write it down and then what do I do? So what's a snapshot, keeping in mind that not every week is going to be the same or even close to sometimes, but some ideas that you have of what your week would look like, say next week, and then what your week might look like 3 weeks ago, just so people have an idea of how they can plan their own schedules.
So I'm probably a lot more random than I should be.
That's okay too, right? Because it's working. So that's what I mean. Let's just give people an idea of what it could look like.
Sure. And so in the past, most of my business has been on Facebook. So for me, it's getting up, it's engaging, it's posting, it's interacting with other people. It's just listening to what other people need in their life and then saying, hey, maybe this would help you. But the more you read and the more you watch and you kind of, I don't want to say you stalk people, but you just get to know what people are complaining about, or you get to know, they post randomly that their kid's not doing so well in school, they just can't focus. Hey, ding, ding, ding. Yep. So me being this time of year, right? Me being the kind of passive aggressive person that I am, I would make a post about how I can help kids with attention problems, right? And kind of leave it open and maybe interact with them so that they end up seeing my post because of all the stupid algorithms and whatever on Facebook. But kind of just hinting. I don't personally go after a lot of people. I let them come to me. I put it out there. If they like it, if they comment, I say, hey, I'll send them a message. Hey, thanks for commenting, blah, blah, blah. I now have a great big whiteboard on an easel next to my desk. And I write down who I've contacted, but then I also write down who I've sent product to and the date so that I know when to follow up with them. And I write down my follow-up dates with them. So I have it on this great big whiteboard. That's on the right-hand side. On the left-hand side is all of the dates that I'm looking at booking and all of the dates I've booked for events to do. So I have kind of a left and a right side on this great big huge whiteboard.
Kind of a smattering of fishing lines in the water, we'll say.
Right, but at least it's all there in one look. I don't have to go hunt for it. I don't have to look through little pieces of paper. I don't have to try to figure out some calendar. It's literally, I don't know, a 3x4 whiteboard on this easel.
I like it.
And I couldn't believe my husband bought it for me. He's like, I thought this would help you get organized. And I'm like, oh, great. but actually I really like it. It's working for me. I've got a system now, where before I didn't have a system and I was very scattered. But so I interact on Facebook. I make pointed posts towards people. I also post about my life, which a lot of people don't do what I do on the side, so they interact with that. So now I fly around a bit with horses. So of course that's different and it's interesting and people think that's cool. So it gets me more interaction on Facebook, which then when I post things more about Vox, it gets more interaction. So it's a win-win for me. I do reach out to some people, but then I also work on doing me and doing my business better. So 4 months ago, maybe, I hired a social media coach. And anybody that's followed any of my Facebook stuff can see my pictures have changed, how I post has changed. I learned how to edit my pictures a little bit better, just how to get more interaction with my posts. And that really helped my business. So I took the chance and I invested in me and my business because I knew I wanted to do more Vox business. And
well, the post did take a shift. Like I just found them. I found you putting some very clever teaser posts up, and I thought, well, did she just have an awakening or what happened there? So I asked Terry, and he told me that you'd hired a coach, and I thought, well, you can definitely tell.
It was the best $50 a month I spent.
Brilliant.
$50 a month. Yeah.
Okay, so that's important information. So you hired a social media coach for $50 a month, and it's changed your business. That's a big message. That's an important message. Good.
How long do you have to stay with this, or is it like a contract you invested in?
It was a month to month.
Month to month.
Yep.
Did they do the posts for you, or they told you how to do it?
No, they just taught you how to do it better.
Right.
You still had to do the work.
Yeah.
And they would give you ideas. Like she gives me a lot of, interactive ideas. Like, do you like your coffee black or with cream? Or do you like the beach or the ocean? The pool or the ocean? Do you like the mountains or the water? Do you, like those kind of things that get people interacting and commenting. She gives you a lot of those ideas. She gives you a lot of helpful ideas about which apps to actually pay for, which ones are useful, not so useful, how to use them, how to do stories better. It's a lot of that kind of thing. But now I feel like I've gotten what I can get out of that. And so now I fully devote my time, my learning time, because I got stuck in that kind of place where I was learning and not doing.
Correct. Yep.
And so I was soaking up all this information and then not doing anything with it. And I was stuck in that until about 2 weeks ago. I was kind of stuck. And so I kind of had a wake up call with myself and said, hey, you kind of need to get your shit together and get unstuck and start doing again. And
start doing. Yep.
So I stopped that social media coach and now I just do the Higdon training. So every morning, I know about 8:30, he's going live. I watch that. I do my action step. I reach out to people. I go close myself in my office. My husband knows not to bother me. And so I just interact, get anything ready to ship out that I need to ship out. And usually by noon, I have the afternoon to do what I want to do with. Because I've done everything social media and shipping wise and whatever that I need to do. So then it's just fielding calls, interacting with my team, answering any questions they have. If I have meetings, and today I'm supporting a brand new associate. She is seeing a doctor for some brain training that actually Dr. Baldino helped me get set up for her because she was a customer and then has now become an associate. And through the connections of VoxxLife, I was able to help this poor woman that has been suffering for years. And I was able to help her with the tech, but I was able to help her even more because of the connections I have now.
That leads me into a comment that has been simmering within me for a long time. And I've probably already put it out there, even on these calls, but we have diamonds in our own backyard. And so It's great to, push yourself as a lone rider, so to speak, but there are also appropriate opportunities where two are better than one, and tag teaming to get something to happen, or to better deliver what it is you're trying to communicate, is the way to go. One thing I will say about this community and this culture is there, at least not that I've seen, and I try to vibe in this place, somebody who wants all the marbles for themselves. Like,
Right.
if you cast your bread upon the waters, it generally comes back to you in a greater way than what you ever anticipated. And sometimes that's just about relationship building, and the payoff is down the road, like Jack and the Beanstalk with his beans. But really, relationships have so much value on so many levels. So the payback is mental and emotional and spiritual and financial. Diane Burnett and I have been working a bit together, and it's just good. It's she understands that there's some things she doesn't know, and she can get her foot indoors. I can't. So I like what you had to say there, Ange, about teaming up.
Well, I knew I could help her a little bit more. And so I reached out to Dr. Baldino, and he got right back to me. But flipping back to that, I could reach out to him because I had put myself out there.
Right.
And I had made a pact with myself to get to the events.
Correct.
Had I not been at the events, had I not put myself out there, had I stayed to myself and not conversed and surrounded myself with the people I knew I needed to be surrounded with, I wouldn't have had his phone number. I wouldn't have had his cell phone number.
Yep.
Okay. I sent him a quick text while I was sitting with this potential new customer, and I said, look, what kind of results do you have dealing with this? And he said, well, he gets right back to me in less than 5 minutes. He said, well, it can be this or this, but yeah. Her and her husband were so excited they were ready to drive the 4 hours to Chicago to see him. And he said,
Wow.
well, maybe I can find somebody closer to her that is trained like I am. What's her zip code? And in less than 10 minutes, he shot me a doctor's name and phone number and said, ask for this particular doctor. She's seen him. She's going today for her second brain training treatment. But after the first one, she said she has felt better than she has felt in 15 years.
Oh, wow.
So,
and isn't that in keeping with the mission to help 1 billion people?
It's keeping
Right?
with the mission, but it's also, there's a good point of you have to be at the events.
I agree. You have to be in the zone.
There. And the doctors and, yourself and Terry and Doogsy, and I mean, everybody is so accessible, which is so nice.
Yeah.
But I now have that personal relationship because I made it a point to be at the events. So what if you have to travel? So what if, I went from Florida to Denver, Colorado, but I got a plane ticket for $150.
Beautiful.
$150 to go to Denver, Colorado to one of the big events. And I stayed with a friend, and actually she's a PMF person, but I had never met her, but I stayed at her house. So I had no cost in staying. And
Right.
my plane ticket was $150.
You got your fanny to the event, and out of that came huge.
Figure it out.
Yep.
Yeah, you figure it out. And
But
when
you take the calculated risk.
you take the calculated
Right,
risk, but
Ange?
you get there and you meet people and you network and you hear stories and you come home so rejuvenated and energized, because it's not just you doing the business.
Right.
It's you doing the business now with all these other people, and you have all these other stories to pull from to help you with your business.
Yes, absolutely. That's true.
So you have to decide to put yourself out there, and you have to take just a little bit of action. And the best quote from the week, and this is from Ray Higdon this week: a slow production week is better than a no production week.
Excellent.
Just
Ladies, I'm just going to interrupt for a minute because I just want to be mindful of our time.
Yep.
for people that have to get going to other meetings. And I know, Angie, you have to go soon too. So I just wanted to quickly say thank you for sharing your story. And to recap for the people that are either on here or going to be sharing this and watching the recording, really, I mean, let's look at the takeaways that Ange gave us. I mean, it was a really great conversation, but there was a lot of information there that I think is really valuable, especially for people that may be feeling that they are in a rut with Vox, or are just starting and really don't know what to do now. You know, that happens for a lot of people. They come on, they're like very excited because it helped them. Now they want to help people, and now what? So a lot of, I heard tons of information, but some of the things I want to highlight was, Angie talked about writing down your goals, your 90-day action plan, and then maybe revamping the 90-day action plan to make sure that it's a little uncomfortable rather than being too comfortable. And then another thing I really liked, and I remember when I started out, you know, when I started, Terry Lynn was also very new, and everybody was very new at that point. We didn't have a lot of people talking about having a real system, and the system is the key. Whatever your system's going to be, it needs to be a system. And I love how you talk about having a snapshot of your business on this whiteboard. And for some people, it will be on an online type thing. Some people, it'll be pen and paper. Whatever it is for you, find your system. My system is that I have evolved to is receipt books. Every single person that gets VoxxLife products from me, all of their information goes into the same system, and it's a paper system, so I can access it Wi-Fi or not. But whatever whatever's going to work for you, you need to find that system, because I think all of us, when we started out, especially when we started out, we had all these random pieces of paper from shows, and oh my God, that system doesn't work. Don't use that system. I think we can all agree, right? That does not work. Don't have random pieces of paper from shows that you're trying to make sense of months later. And I think another part of, Ange, what we talked about earlier and what you touched on again, was find your groove. Right? What works for Ange may not be the same thing that works for me, may not be the same thing that works for Terry Lynn, may not be the same thing that works for Lori, Nancy, Pat. It may not be the same thing, but whatever it is, find it. Don't stop because it does. Like Ange, you know, she wanted to go into farmers markets. That's what I'm doing where I am. She wanted to do that. That's not available to her where she is. That's just not something that, it's a battle that she would have to fight to get in. So the path of least resistance, find the space. So she's found the space where she can work day to day, and it doesn't mean you don't keep working on the other avenues that you want to be in, but you don't stop because somebody said no. And actually, we're gonna
the idea. Don't be denied. You know.
Yeah, exactly. We're actually gonna have Laura Armstrong on with us in a month's time or so to talk about embracing the no. Like, don't be afraid of that. Don't be afraid to ask. And if they say no, don't take it personally. So she's going to help us with that, because I think that's a big tool as well. But also, Ange, just how you talk about getting out there and making sure you have time to support your customers and support your team, right? Scheduling time into your day where your social media, that kind of stuff is away, so that you can connect. Because as Lori and I talk a lot about, it's the connection, right? It's the connection to your people. It's a connection. It's getting to look in the eyes of your customers and see them, their life change, right?
It's lacking today, girls, just because of social media. So responsible use of it is very important. I have to fly. I've got a self-care appointment.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, I will say thank you, Ange. Thank you, Laura. I'm going to leave this channel open if people, we have the channel for the next 15 minutes or so, if people want to chit chat. But if you have to go, certainly we respect your time, and we thank you for being here. Remember to invite your teammates to the Women of VoxxLife group on Facebook. We're all in there and we're supporting each other. It's really a place to get support, because as Kevin Duguay always says, you know, you're in business for yourself, but not by yourself.
And it's a place that you can cry if you're tired and emo.
Oh God, yes. And we cry. Like, I cry. I'm one of the strongest women I know. I cry all the time.
Yep. It's a release, and a needed release, so that we can come back at it. Ange, love you.
Bye, Lori. Thank you.
You love me back?
I love you back.
Thank you. I'm going to have a good day. Love you all, girls. Talk to you next time.
Yes, thanks for being here.
Thank you, Krista Taylor. You're the bomb.
Thanks, Lori. All right, if you guys want to chit chat, unmute yourselves, or I'm going to unmute you. How do you like that?
There you go.
I'm going to go in here, and I think I can unmute all. What if that happens? I'm going to try. Unmute all. You probably have to accept the unmute. There we go. Hi.
Krista, just FYI, I don't know if you saw on Facebook, but Nicola Frambois is in Ontario right now.
Oh, is she?
Yeah, her brother Matt's getting married, and she had to go to Mac because she posted the x-ray. Her little 3-year-old swallowed money coins.
Oh.
So now it's good news because it's in a good spot, so they're just waiting for some poop now.
Oh, no. Oh, my gosh. I'll have to reach out to her.
So yeah, she posted the x-ray, and then I'm like, McMaster, I'm like, you're in Hamilton? She's like, I'm at Lime Ridge right now.
And I can't find anybody, like, do you work with people, you know, do you have any spaces in your practice? Because I have a private practice. And I said to her, I said, absolutely not. Why she even asked me what I did, I don't know. I was just buying clothes from her. You know, and she called me this morning and we're booked. Like, we're doing this. Like, it's just been such a lesson for me. Like, I'm in a coaching program, and the coach said the second week it was just about changing our mindset and going out with that open mind that everybody wants what we have. And it's made a big difference. Like, even I got 3 new clients by Monday. So he says to me, what are you planning to do with the rest of the week? Like, what's your goal? And I was thinking, well, 3 was my goal and I got them, but I guess he's right. It's only Monday. So I said, well, 3 more. Well, I've gotten 3 more, plus I have 3 more that are coming in for another intake. So, like, it's to never stop that mindset. And we're not programmed that way initially, unfortunately. Not a lot of us are, but, you know, we can learn this and we can change that and we can start being that way. And being in the Women of Vox has been amazing because it's a bunch of women understanding that we have things to learn from each other, and this really works. So I love this group, and I just want to thank Angela for talking about that and sharing her story. It's awesome.
Oh, you're welcome, Diane. Good for you this week. Way to go knock it off.
You know, I just want to touch on what Ange said about events and being at events and joining events, and it ties into Diane because, so Diane was on the call. If you haven't had a chance to watch the recording of Girl Talk where Diane was the guest a few weeks ago, please take the opportunity to watch that call because this is what happened. You know, we show up, we listen. So I show up, I listen, I'm interested in what Diane has to say. And actually, Diane, I'm going to connect with you in September. I wanted to earlier, but I want to connect with you in September to do something for some parents. But just because I showed up on that call, I listened to her. I wasn't thinking, oh, I'm like taking notes, I'm going to jot that down. I was just taking it in, what she was talking about with ADHD and lots of really useful explanations and tips and things like that. Do you know, since that call, 6 different families have come to me, total strangers to me, have come to me. They started trying the Vox products, you know, like coming to trying the balance test, starting to use it for themselves, thinking about using it for themselves, and then randomly saying things to me about either their child or their grandchild who has ADHD. Kind of like what you're saying, Diane. So these people are randomly saying this to me, and suddenly I have all of this information to share with them.
Go to North Meridian Street.
Right? So then it creates a really big conversation where, okay, so now they're going to get their kids on the tech and try it out. And, you know, I'm going to send them Diane's contact information in case they want more support. And it's just this whole network that's come together simply by me taking the time to be on that call for half an hour. So it's really the show up, definitely show up, because you never know when those tools that you learn or here are going to support you later in your business. Caroline, how was your week?
Good, actually. I've done $2,930 in sales, and I got 5 more people to call today. Referrals from my networking group. So
nice.
It's been busy. I'm tired.
Yeah.
But yeah, and I made some wicked contacts. I'm at the Oakville Hospital.
Yeah.
And so I met a nurse there. She wants me to come to the Milton Hospital now. And she was so excited about it. It was funny. She didn't bring her cards with her. She only had $30. She wanted a knee high. And she said, well, I was going to bring it out to Milton to her. And she goes, oh, that's too far for you to drive, blah, blah, blah. And then she tells me she's a nurse. Why am I not in the Milton Hospital? Gives me the contact for the person there. And then I said to her, you know what? Because she said, every nurse needs this on. And she said, she'd been a nurse for 27 years. So I said to her, you know what, just take the knee high, you try them. Because she said, I can't recommend them unless I try them. I said, take the knee high, try them, don't worry about it. And she's like, no, I can't just take it for free. She's like, at least take $30 for them. So she gave me the $30. She's given me her name and her contact info. She gave me an in to get into the hospital there. She does all kinds of volunteer work and everything. And then she took the whole practitioner program because she couldn't believe they could sign up, get it for 50% off, and share this with their patients. So she's taken all that info and everything as well. And she said, well, if these work, she said, we're going to get together and have a whole pile of nurses at my house.
Nice.
So, I mean, just, and it, you know, I was packing up when she came to me, you know, and it just, you know, we started talking, and like the more listening to people, you just get all these little tidbits, and then it's like, oh, hey, well, I got this. So, hey, well, I got, you know what I mean? So it's just,
Awesome.
it's not always, I mean, I did well in sales, but it's not always the sales, it's the contacts and the people that you're meeting while you're there, right? So
Yeah.
I have a practitioner signing up too this week as well too, a physiotherapist, and he's like amazing. He's not your typical physiotherapist. This guy volunteers, does Reiki for palliative care patients at the Oakville Hospital. He's into this myofascial cranial something, and he's got his osteopath, and this guy studied quantum physics. He's extremely smart, but he uses all these different natural modalities to help people. And he's blown away by it. His dad had a stroke, very athletic man, but he goes, I can't get my dad to 100%. So now he's going to use the socks. And he's like, you know what? He's given me a patient. I have to call today. So he said, between my patient and my dad, if this helps them, I'm in 100%.
That's fantastic.
So yeah, it's been a good week.
Excellent. Very good. Very good. So it's all about helping people, and you know, the more money we make, that means the more people we've helped. So don't be shy about making money.
And put patches on people. I've put like 127 patches on people this week.
Yeah.
And
don't
I mean,
expect that
like,
every person.
like, someone asked me, what do you charge them? I'm like, nothing. Number one, Jay's giving us free patches right now.
Yeah.
So they're free. But I mean, even if you're paying for the patches, to be able to put that tech on someone for 24 hours, I get way more. I know you made a comment, Diane, that your coach said 50 no's. I don't get 50 no's. You know, you get a few people, but those skeptical people, when you put tech on them, you get phone calls the next day from them like, I've had the best sleep ever. Like, I don't know what it is with this. My back feels better. It feels better. And, you know, you get more people that way and everything. You're putting that tech on them for 24 hours. They get to feel what it's like, right?
So true. People say that a lot. I don't know if it's the tech, but, and then they list all the things that we know they're going to say.
I had a girl at a show, I had a vendor at a show, and it's funny because she's actually into the whole marijuana CBD thing and everything. And she told me, I have my marijuana that helps with pain. She's an older lady. She was talking about she has this chronic hip pain and stuff. And we finally got her to do the demo. We put a patch on her. She wore it overnight. She came in the next day and she said, well, I have to say I had the best night's sleep ever. And she said, and I feel fantastic, but I've got these new shoes. And we just kind of rolled our eyes, right? And then she came up to us later in the day because we told her the patch lasts 24 hours. She came up and she said, well, I hit my 24-hour mark, so my hips are killing me. So my shoe theory just went out the window. And she goes, like, it's crazy. Like 24 hours and like 10 minutes later, my hips start hurting.
Could it be the tech?
She said, Jay, I have to tell you, I think it's this patch that did this.
Yes. Do you think?
People are funny.
And you know, just to piggyback on that, you're right. But the point of the 50 no's is if you expect 50 no's to every yes, you're not going to give up. That's his point.
Yeah.
You know, expect no's, and the no's don't matter. It's all the yeses that you're going to get. But no's are that's just going to happen because people are like that. But I did want to say too, you know, in my practice, I really struggled with how do I present the Vox stuff and still, you know, abide by the code of ethics. And I really thought about it, but I finally figured it out. And the patches are really a good answer for me. So you're right. I'm like you. I don't care about the price of the patch. It explains to them and it helps them to understand it. But I now, at the end of my first presentation with them, I say, so a lot of people are asking me for natural ways, and I've found this. I've gone through all the research, and I just want to try this on you to see if it's going to help you. And I find that a lot of the kids, it's really calming them down. So I agree with you. It's the one way that I'm able to put it in to my practice without trying to sell, without making it look like a whole different thing. It's just a part of what I do, and a way that I'm helping each client understand that this could work for them. And I leave it there. The next time I say, so how did that work? Or I check with them a couple days later, how did the patch work, stuff like that. And but the one thing I have to say, sometimes it doesn't stick to them well. So I'm carrying now, I'm getting medical tape so that I can tape it on them. I'm not going to worry about that it's sticking or not. If it doesn't stick, so that's a good thing to do as well. But it's really, it makes me feel better, because I feel like I'm leaving them with something when they have those really crazy rambunctious kids that they don't know how to handle, until we can get enough sessions in for them to be able to start managing that. At least they can wear socks, you know?
Yep. I
Such a message,
totally
yeah.
have my daughter off of ADHD meds because of tech. So my daughter, it's the same, like I have three of my 4 kids have ADHD, and my other 3 kids are all over 20, but I have a 15-year-old. And you know, with the other kids, that was my option, was medication, right? And with Maddie, she was on meds and that, and when I put the tech on her, it's the same as if she has Concerta. And so we have her off meds. It's why would I put a drug into a kid if I can simply put socks on her? And I actually talked to the school, because we have a uniform, and I could put wellness socks on her that would make uniform, and my daughter's like, I don't like those socks. So I talked to the vice principal at the school, and I told him what it does and everything, and he turned to me and he said, if it's helping her, that's fine, we'll make an exemption. So she's allowed to wear her funky socks, and she goes to school with them every day. And last year she did way better than she has in any of the previous years at school.
Fantastic. Fantastic. I love it. We help the kids, we change the world. That's really what it comes down to, right? Really comes down to. And think about them being on that tech from now for the rest of their lives versus being on a med from now to for the rest of their lives, what the difference to their body is. Just fantastic. Fantastic. And I love what you said, Diane, about how you're using the patch to introduce it. That's a good message for practitioners, a really good message for practitioners about how to bring the tech up without feeling salesy or anything like that. I think we're sharing that in a broader form. But anyways, our time is up for today, ladies. Thank you so much for being a part of this. And I always love chatting with you, but this was really great for you to be here to share with the greater audience, because I think your message is really, really helpful for everyone. So please, ladies, share this with the women on your team. Stretch it out there, and you know, you can share it with the guys on your team too, but they have to get the replay. But let's keep coming back and supporting each other. And as Diane says, invite the women that you know into this Women of Vox group. I actually have come across many people this summer who are wholesale associates, like they bought the membership for wholesale, and several of them have come and joined the Women of Vox group, and it's resonating with them. So, you know, that's another way that we help the mission to get to 1 billion people, is just to keep engaging, whether people are directly connected to us or not. So even inviting your wholesale customers to be in this group, if they are have an associate number, do it, because you never know what might spark and inspire somebody to go help somebody else. If it happens here, all the better. So thank you for being here. Thank you for sharing with us, everyone. And I will say good night or good afternoon, goodbye, enjoy your weekend, and we'll see you in 2 weeks.
Thanks for having me on.
Thanks.
See you later, guys. Have a good
Great
week.
call.